And Amy, should General Kelly, White House Chief of Staff John Kelly, should he resign over the handling of the Rob Porter matter? Of course, this is the White House staff secretary who resigned in the wake of allegations from former ex-wives and a former girlfriend about physical abuse at his hands. John Kelly reportedly offered to resign if the president wanted him to. That, of course, has not happened. Should it happen? 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line, 64636DA, turnkey.pro text line.
And on Saturday, well, let's start with Friday. On Friday, reporters asked President Trump about Porter and his exit.
We certainly wish him well. It's a obviously tough time for him. He did a very good job when he was in the White House, and we hope he has a wonderful career, and hopefully he will have a great career ahead of him. But it was very sad when we heard about it, and certainly he's also very sad. Now, he also, as you probably know, he says he's innocent, and I think you have to remember that. He said very strongly yesterday that he's innocent.
Trump tweeted later, people's lives are being shattered and destroyed by a mere allegation. Some are true and some are false. Some are old and some are new. There is no recovery for someone falsely accused. Life and career are gone. Is there no such thing any longer as due process?
So Porter's ex-wife, well, one of them, not the one that he allegedly beat with a vase, or the vase somehow jumped and hit her in the face, but Jenny Willoughby responded in an op-ed in Time magazine saying, everyone wants to talk about how Trump implied I am not to be believed, as if Trump is the model of kindness and forgiveness, as if he readily acknowledges his own shortcomings and shows empathy and concern for others. I forgive him. Thankfully, my strength and worth are not dependent on outside belief. The truth exists whether the president accepts it or not.
I don't think he implied she's not to be believed.
By defending Rob Porter? Or just saying that he's a great guy and it was a pleasure to work with him?
In point of fact, this is kind of where you have predisposition, rather kind of rear its ugly head, rather than actually listening to what was said or reading what was tweeted. Jenny Willoughby, in fact, said in an interview with Anderson Cooper we played on Friday that there were two Rob Porters. There was the Rob Porter who was the successful professional, who was kind and chivalrous and generous and intelligent, and he was also dark and disturbed. That's Jenny Willoughby talking about Rob Porter. So what you had from General Kelly initially and what you have from Donald Trump is essentially an expression of their interaction with Rob Porter. And
right. But you're the president of the United States. If you're asked a question like that, at least say something about the alleged victim. Because you would alienate her, ostracize her, make her feel even worse than she already feels for taking years of verbal abuse by this guy who has two different personalities. I understand that, but it's time again. He defended Mike Tyson, Bill O'Reilly, Roger Ailes, himself. I mean, here's a quick montage of all the men accused of behaving badly that he's defended.
It's my opinion that to a large extent Mike Tyson was railroaded in this case.
It's very sad because he's a very good person.
These people are horrible people. They're horrible, horrible liars. Roy Moore denies it. That's all I can say. He denies it. And by the way, he totally denies it.
He said very strongly yesterday that he's innocent.
So he's always jumping to defend the man, which that's his right, but he's president of the United States. And who knew what, when, too? John Kelly came forward saying he fired Porter or asked him, accept his resignation 40 minutes after he learned that he had alleged physical abuse allegations. John Kelly, according to Axios this morning, said that they claim that he knew about the verbal abuse but didn't know about the physical abuse.
In November, I got an update on some of the investigations, and the update was that there was some things that needed to be looked into. Literally, that was it.
Can you clarify to us exactly, there's been a lot of reporting about the timeline and when you found out about
Tuesday night.
You found Tuesday night?
That the accusations were true.
Yeah.
40 minutes later, he was gone.
I'm sorry. Could you point to one of those cases? I mean, the Mike Tyson case where he says he got railroaded. I disagree with Trump about that, and that's disposing of the case. That's adjudicating the case. In these other instances, including the one at present, is there no such thing any longer as due process? Is that saying that Rob Porter is innocent? No, it's not.
Well,
Is that
he
saying
said that he denied the allegations.
is that a fact?
He did. Rob Porter denied the allegations, but we have pictures.
I'm sorry. Did he adjudicate the case, or is he just reciting facts? Rob Porter denied the allegations. He didn't dispute what Jenny Willoughby had to say, or the other ex-wife. He said he denied the allegations. Is there no such thing any longer as due process? I mean, that's what he said. Now, you can interpret this to his benefit or detriment as you see fit, but let's start with what was actually said. When the Me Too movement goes too far, New York Times editor and columnist Barry Weiss on with Bill Maher. The hard left is basically saying it's okay if a few innocent men go down with the ship if that's what it takes to bring down the patriarchy, says New York Times editor and columnist Barry Weiss. They hate zero tolerance on the right when it comes to drug policy, but they love zero tolerance when it comes to sexual misconduct. She also, it's New York Post editorial about what this New York Times editor had to say, also makes mention of Lena Dunham. Lena Dunham excoriated when she rallied to the defense of a friend who worked on her show who was accused of rape. So Lena Dunham. The New York Post conclusion, Me Too should be applauded for bringing down monsters, but that doesn't mean the accused shouldn't be able to defend themselves. While also saying the White House shouldn't have hired Porter and mishandled his firing.
Well, they also shouldn't have hired the speechwriter, David Sorensen. Came out. He resigned on Friday afternoon because it came out allegations of abuse that he ran over his wife's foot with a car on purpose. He burned her with a lit cigarette and violently threw her against the wall. And she suffered 2 years of emotional abuse from him as well. They didn't check his record. Or are they just not checking?
What do you mean?
people
What do you mean?
to work in the White House?
You get FBI background checks on everybody.
Yeah.
And remember, Porter's was pending. It had not been concluded. These things, unfortunately, take an inordinate amount of time.
And same with Sorensen. His was pending, too.
So anybody who is, facing serious substantive allegations like this, well, they can't be in a sensitive position in the White House. Of course not. That's idiotic. And so I agree with the New York Post and many that say Porter shouldn't have been hired, and they've mishandled it. Raj Shah, the deputy press secretary, said last week, we could have handled this better. No question about it. But the conclusion here too, since we're kind of extrapolating about who's defending who or who's on which side, as if there should be a side when it comes to monsters versus people that are accused, but we don't know. That's why we have due process as one of the kind of foundations of a free society. Me Too should be applauded for bringing down monsters, yes, but that doesn't mean the accused shouldn't be able to defend themselves, yes. Why do those two things have to be mutually exclusive? I don't understand. By the way, Bill Maher, also not known as a Trump fan or a conservative, in that exchange he had with the New York Times editor and columnist that I referenced, he talked about the kind of Me Too hard left and millennials specifically, calling millennials effing fragile and, I love this turn of a phrase, emotional hemophiliacs. I don't think it's the majority of them. I think it's the upper middle class kids who grew up screaming at their parents and that was okay. And they're just so effing fragile, excuse me. I think of them as emotional hemophiliacs, and the rest of us have to be so careful around them. Weiss, the New York Times editor-columnist, replied, Many young people think that asking someone for a drink constitutes sexual harassment. She joked that for Valentine's Day, people should get a permission slip, not a Valentine. Who knows what to write in the card, said Marr.
312-642-5600 is our turnkey.pro answer line. Should President Trump have made any comment at all about Rob Porter? Could he have just left it alone? Is that even possible?
Scott on the west side, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hey, thanks, Dan and Amy. Thanks for taking my call. Relationships are complicated things, and they're symbiotic. There's a reason that these women are attracted to these men, and that these men are attracted to these particular women. And it's not always as one-sided as it seems. We can't expect Trump to be responsible for every action that every member of his staff has taken in the past. And a lot of this stuff in the past with other administrations and earlier administrations were simply buried and were not known to the public. And now the public knows everything, and that's the part of the issue, I believe.
All right, thanks for the call, Scott. Just others speaking out. Oscar-winning director Michael Haneke.
Better you than me. Yes. Common spelling?
He's an Austrian filmmaker. Such film, Amour, White Ribbon,
okay.
Piano Teacher. I've seen Amour and The Piano Teacher, both very good. He said, "Oh God, don't ask me about it," when the Me Too movement came up.
Really?
As a man, you should hardly say anything more about this topic. He said, "This new man-hating puritanism coming in the wake of the Me Too movement worries me. Of course, I find any form of rape or coercion punishable. That's not the question, but the prejudice hysteria which is spreading now, I find absolutely disgusting, and I do not want to know how many of these charges related to incidents 20 or 30 years ago are primarily statements that have little to do with sexual assault." And then he's like, yeah, I know when people read this, they're going to say, oh, look, another Hollywood chauvinist pig. Again, just going back to that simple formulation. The Me Too movement has brought down monsters, and good monsters like Harvey Weinstein and others should be exposed. But people should also have the right to defend themselves against allegations. There's a difference. There is a qualitative difference between the story of Harvey Weinstein and Aziz Ansari. And to treat them the same, for example, just to make it tangible, to treat them the same is to conflate criminal predation with, misreading of signals. Is essentially to break down civil society. It's to have everything be the subject of litigation. Is to, unleash the man-hating puritanism that the director spoke about, is to cater to the emotional hemophiliacs that Marr spoke about.
Well, I thought Senator Rand Paul, when asked about, domestic violence, about President Trump, defending Porter after, their picture came out that he did. His first wife has a bruise on her face. How she got it, they said they were fighting over a vase in Florence, Italy. But here's Senator Paul.
It's difficult for me to get involved in theirs other than to say that absolutely no place for domestic violence in our world. And then beyond that, I will say that there is complicated things, and somebody has to, if you've ever been to family court with he said and she said, and I'm not saying that I'm denying what these women are saying, I'm just saying that these things are very, very complicated. If you go to family court and you're a family court judge, you talk about a very, very difficult job. But that being said, I don't want anybody to believe I'm making excuses. There is no excuse for domestic violence.
Of course. Right. My inclination, my instinct on the Rob Porter case is that the women are telling the truth. That's my instinct on it. I don't know, but that's my instinct. But that doesn't mean that you get carte blanche to make any allegation and have it believed as a matter of course. No, the quality of the contention, the amount of evidence to present matters. That matters. And you do have due process rights. Now, this is not an issue in an at-will employment situation, but generally speaking, you don't want to go down that path of what many on the left are saying, that it's okay if a few innocent men go down. the entirety of our justice system is based on the fact better 100 guilty men go free than one innocent man be imprisoned. That's the bedrock of our justice system. But now we're going to cast that aside, turn that over to the cultural Marxists as we do so much else. Well, we're not going to have a free society anymore. I mean, I guess you're okay with that, then you're okay with that. But just understand the implications of policy, since people are always so horrified because they're so bad at connecting dots to see what the implications of their sentimental barbarism actually are. By the way, this cuts a lot of different ways, too. Christina Garcia, one of the Me Too movement's shining stars.
Well, she's a female who abused a young little lad. Was it at a golf tournament?
She's also a California state legislator.
Right.
Yeah. She is now the subject of a state legislative investigation in the wake of a report that she sexually harassed and groped a legislative staffer. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Time Magazine announced that Silence Breakers, that when they announced the Silence Breakers were the persons of the year, Garcia's face was on the that cover story.
I know, and I still don't know why.
The Daniel Fierro told Politico he was groped by Garcia, who chairs the Legislative Women's Caucus in California.
Oh, that's nice.
He said she cornered him alone after the annual Assembly softball game in Sacramento as he attempted to clean up the dugout. Fierro said Garcia appeared inebriated, said she began stroking his back, squeezed his buttocks.
I was supposed to read that line.
I know, I took it away from me. And attempted to touch his, you want to read that line?
No, I don't want to read that line.
Touch his crotch before
bits.
he extricated himself and quickly left.
All of our brave sisters out there who have shared their Me Too stories, thank you. We should not have to be on your shoulders to make this change, but thank you because your voices are giving us the power to bring down the patriarchy and protect our sisters. And for our future generations, I want them to be safe. I want them to have better, so we're here for them. But we're also here for ourselves, because I'll be damned if in my lifetime I continue to live under the patriarchy we live in today.
Yeah.
So keep fighting.
Go, girl.
That's Christina Garcia.
Wow.
Prominent Sacramento lobbyist says she also says that Garcia accosted him in May of 2017 when she cornered him, made a graphic sexual proposal, and tried to grab his crotch at a political fundraiser. So apparently Christina Garcia is going to try and take down the patriarchy one crotch at a time.